Good afternoon all and welcome to the 5th birthday celebration for the Center of Student Leadership, Experiential Education and Citizenship. We are delighted to have you all join us in this momentous occasion, and we're excited to engage with all of you. And as the program goes on, we'd want to hear from all of you as we engage on what the future of leadership is. And today we're going to be engaging specifically about where the center comes from, where it is right now, and also where it's going. So again, I want to welcome all the partners, I want to welcome all the students and all the staff that are joining us this afternoon. And to kick the program off, we're going to hand over to Prof. Wim de Villiers for the welcome. Over to you, Prof.
Welcome everyone to the 5-year celebration of the Center for Student Leadership, Experiential Education and Citizenship. It was launched on the 1st of September 2016 as the Center for Student Leadership and Structures, or CSLS, as the third center within the Division of Student Affairs. Last year, the center changed its name to the Center for Student Leadership, Experiential Education and Citizenship, in short, CSLEEC, demonstrating a true reflection of its new approach in pursuance of students and staff as holistic, connected citizen leaders through experiential learning as pedagogy for social justice. And since its launch, the Center has expanded its offerings with an extensive development focus and currently consists of the Co-Curriculum Office, the Frederik van Zyl-Slubber Institute for Student Leadership, online programming, and student governance. And CSLEEC has had many highlights to celebrate over the past 5 years. It hosted South Africa's first international experiential education conference in 2020. And in collaboration with SU International, it launched the inaugural African Student Leaders Network this year. It also hosts the annual Student Leaders Summit for Aspiring Leaders. But perhaps most importantly, the center provides a growing number of students the opportunity to gain specific competencies through experiential education, which supports their graduate attributes and helps them receive recognition on their academic transcripts through co-curriculum involvement and short course completion. The aim of the center is to produce dynamic young professionals who are well-rounded, critical thinkers, and engaged citizens. As CSLEEC celebrates 5 years of student leadership development, we reminisce on and revel in the engendered spirit of collaboration, showcase of leadership and vision building, and look back on the journey of the past 5 years at Stellenbosch University with gratitude. The center has created an atmosphere where the holistic development of students and staff is a priority, and in doing so, helped shape the leaders of the future. Congratulations to everyone involved, and enjoy the celebration.
And that is Prof. Wim de Villiers, the current Rector and Vice-Chancellor of Stellenbosch University. Thank you, Prof, for such a warm welcome, telling us what CSLEEC is about, telling us where it's come from, and again, where it's going. But let's delve a bit more deeper into this journey, and let's speak to Ms. Tonya Overmeyer, who's the Director of CSLEEC, and Ms. Heidi October, who's a Deputy Director of CSLEEC, to tell us a bit about where CSLEEC comes from and what are some of the momentous achievements that they've gotten over the years. They'll tell us what they've achieved, they'll tell us where they're going, and they'll also tell us where CSLEEC currently is at this current day and age, and how CSLEEC is serving the experiential educators on campus, which are both staff and students. So, Heidi, over to you.
Welcome to our Center for Student Leadership, Experiential Education and Citizenship, CSLEEC's 5th year celebrations. I'm Tonya Overmeyer, the Director of CSLEEC.
And I'm Heidi October, the Deputy Director at CSLEEC. Tanya, can you believe it? It's been 5 years since the launch of our centre. Maybe you can share with our guests today why was this third centre launched and the vision that we have for our centre.
Sure, Heidi. The centre was built in service of the university goal of a transformative student experience. Stellenbosch University recognizes the unique potential of student participation in engagement opportunities. Participation makes the individual a better student, a better future graduate professional, and of course offers personal growth. So Stellenbosch University has a wealth of engagement opportunities, and it's a testimony to their commitment to really leverage this potential of co-curricular learning. It was decided to have a dedicated focus through our centre.
Tanya, and as our story unfolded over the last couple of years, there was also a name change. What prompted the name change for us?
Our centre started life as the Centre for Student Leadership and Structures. Our work grew and evolved. Our name includes experiential education and citizenship. So this name change recognizes the work done in the growth and development of the co-curricular space and includes experiential educators, both staff and students. Literature shows us that experiential education is key to realizing a transformative student experience. The centre plays a key role in the development of an evidence-based approach that includes assessment of approved programs and online experiential education. It includes monitoring and evaluation focus within the co-curricular space. We support staff as well as student stakeholders towards providing programs that have a demonstrable contribution to SU Vision 2040. Further, the reference to citizenship locates our work on the continuum of lifelong learning, and our institutions focus on developing students to meet the needs of our country and beyond. While leadership still reflects our mandate, citizenship reflects our strategic intent to contribute to the development of the Stellenbosch University graduate attributes, specifically engaged citizenship. So our offerings extend and target beyond the time and space of our students' experience at Stellenbosch University. We want to inspire students to critically assess their role as active citizens. This links with an interpretation that does not limit change to the actions of positional leadership through structures, but sees agency as the domain and responsibility of all. So our name change captures the fullness of our contribution and embraces future possibility. So Heidi, how about we share some of the centre's highlights over the 5 years?
CSLEEC has many highlights to celebrate. Firstly, hosting Africa's first International Experiential Education Conference, SUEEC, in 2020, resulting in the formation of the Experiential Learning Community of Practice in Africa. Together with that, cementing the experiential learning theory in all of our work, establishing the Stellenbosch University competency framework and key terminology such as experiential educator and student experiential educator. So far, more than 40 co-curriculum programs across divisions and faculties formalized receiving academic transcript recognition, and that is absolutely amazing. Secondly, hosting in collaboration with Stellenbosch University International, the launch of the inaugural African Student Leaders Network in 2021. Through that, expanding many opportunities for the SRC and TSR to travel to other African countries such as Ghana and Nigeria to learn more about leadership and culture, thus leadership in context from other African countries and institutions. Together with that, coordinating continental leadership programs such as the African Leadership Development Program and expanding general wraparound support to, for example, the ISFAP bursary holders through the Universal Skills Program and our ISFAP graduate program. Thirdly, hosting of the annual Student Leadership Summit for Aspiring Leaders, in short, LISAL. Expansion to other higher education institutions in South Africa, and through international collaborations, also expanding opportunities for our students to critically engage globally. But perhaps most importantly, the growing number of students gaining specific competencies through experiential education, supporting their graduate attributes, and receiving recognition on the academic transcript through their co-curriculum involvement and short course completion, which forms part of the Centre's formal offerings. This, ensuring that they're becoming better students, professionals, and citizens, well-rounded individuals, dynamic professionals, critical thinkers, and engaged citizens. But the next question, perhaps, Tanya, would be, what is next for CSLEEC?
We will continue to nurture and grow our partnerships. And it goes beyond partnership to deepening our connection. Firstly, we will deepen our connection with students to realize their potential and further develop their capacity to contribute as citizens within all the communities that they inhabit, micro, local, global, especially in service of social justice and sustainable development goals. We'll deepen our connection within higher education so that we offer even more enriching engagements, regional and global, particularly focusing on our partnership with Stellenbosch University International on growing African Student Leadership Network. We will deepen our connection with experiential educators so that we can broaden access to offerings, particularly the offerings that are recognized on the academic transcript. We will deepen our connection with team. Of course, the amazing CSLEEC team, but also extended teams within the Division for Student Affairs, within learning and teaching, and even beyond Stellenbosch University. We are talking about those individuals who see this work as a calling. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them and to thank all of those who have partnered with CSLEEC, who have invested their drive and motivation, their trust and collaboration. We will deepen our connection as we build together towards the realization of our collective vision.
So Tanya and our colleagues, friends of CSLEEC, as you've heard this afternoon, this is a team effort, and without your continued support, we would not be able to realize our vision. We want to thank our experiential educators and, most importantly, our students. As we journey together, we are hoping that you will continue to journey with us in pursuance of students and staff as holistic, connected citizen leaders through experiential learning as pedagogy for social justice. Thank you.
Thank you to Heidi and Tonya for sharing how the Centre's experiential learning and education and their formal programming and opportunities for applied leadership on campus has impacted students' leadership journeys, not only on campus, but as active citizens and in the country, continent, and the globe abroad. So thank you for the Centre for sharing that with us. Now let's hear a bit from the students, both present and past students, by watching the overview video of how the Centre has impacted them and their leadership journey, what lessons, key lessons that they've learned, and what they take to the world as active citizens. Let's see the video.
Over the years, the Center for Student Leadership, Experiential Education and Citizenship has dedicated itself to student expression, contribution, collaboration and discovery. We've provided a space where students explore who they were, who they are, and who they want to be. A space of experience, of learning, and inspiration. A space to apply critical thinking to their contribution to social justice. A space that inspires citizen leadership. Tell us about your experiential learning journey with CSLEEC and how it has contributed to your transformative student experience at Stellenbosch University. How do you see your developmental journey with CSLEEC impacting your future as an active citizen?
My journey with CSLEEC started as a first-year student participating in the Democracy and Citizenship short course. This is where my critical thinking was ignited, which later empowered me to serve as Primaria and also SRC chairperson of Stellenbosch University. Today I'm involved in local governance, and thanks to CSLEEC, I'm able to serve my community, come to the table with innovative ideas, and act as a change agent in our country. I cannot thank CSLEEC enough for the knowledge they've imparted. Thank you, CSLEEC.
I realize now that my degree prepared me to be a great doctor, but it didn't prepare me for what I'm going to face in the workspace. And that's where my leadership experience comes in. I'm able to deal with conflict. I'm able to communicate with colleagues from different walks of life. I'm able to be compassionate. I'm able to deal with a whole lot of things that I think without those skills and the knowledge that I gained from the workshops and those symposiums, I wouldn't be able to navigate this space now did I not have that. And now that I do, I'm just so grateful. If you haven't yet involved yourself in student leadership, please don't deprive yourself. Thanks so much.
The Center for Student Leadership, Experiential Education and Citizenship has played a vital role in enhancing my personal and professional development as a future medical doctor, leader, scholar, researcher, and medical educator who aims to serve as a change agent in my community. Throughout my undergraduate studies, I've had the opportunity to participate in several leadership training initiatives through my involvement as a student leader on a local, national, and international level. I've also participated in several FVZS short courses, which has enabled me to expand both my learning experiences and leadership skills. As I transition into being a medical doctor in less than 7 weeks, I'm appreciative of the growth that I've experienced through CSLEEC. I'm now more hopeful that I will enter the big world as an inquiring mind, an engaged citizen, a dynamic professional, and a well-rounded individual.
So during my time with CSLEEC, or the Center for Student Leadership and Structures, I participated in various courses. I think my journey started in 2016. So I participated in the Global Citizenship course, Leadership and Health, Facilitative Management, and currently the Leadership in Law course. And these courses taught me the different skill sets needed to go into the world as a leader, but it also helped me become a better leader for students on campus. So through my journey with CSLEEC, it really gave me the tools to be a better citizen outside of the Stellenbosch context, and also to help South Africans as a whole and not just Stellenbosch University students.
So throughout my leadership journey in both faculty and residence leadership, through the co-curricular programs and the different leadership seminars that we have, CSLEEC has really just assisted in helping me develop my skills as a leader, just providing me with various resources needed to, to have a successful term. So yes, I think through the resources and through the engagement and support from CSLEEC, I was really able to transform and become a better leader. Through all the skills that I've been equipped with and through all the resources that have been shared with me, I really think that it has assisted me in developing and becoming a better leader. And the skills I've learned and gained from, the insight I've gained from CSLEEC really is something that I can take beyond university and take further on. So I definitely think that's how it's implemented. It's assisted me in becoming an active citizen and just going out there with the skills that I've attained.
I first engaged with the centre in my second year when I enrolled for the Shared Humanity Experiential Education program. The unique interdisciplinary approach of the module had such an impact on me that now, 2 years later, I am again involved in the program, albeit this time as a learning coach. As a learning coach, I have been given the incredible opportunity to facilitate engaging dialogue with the students, and it has taught me the value of listening in order to connect and understand, as opposed to listening in order just to respond. Additionally, I am also engaged with the Centre for purposes of student leadership in my capacity as the Chief Justice of the 2021 Stellenbosch University Student Court. In this role, I have been taught invaluable leadership skills, and it has reaffirmed my commitment to active citizenship. In particular, it has reminded me that I am not an island unto myself, but rather a person within a collaborating and cooperating community.
Such powerful and inspirational reflections from some of the students that have experienced CSLEEC and have developed themselves through the CSLEEC programs. And I myself can resonate with some of those messages because I'm a product of having my leadership development curated and experienced through experiential learning and CSLEEC and the opportunities that they provide. So if you're a student watching this, I urge you, if you're intrigued and if you're inspired, to then develop yourself personally and in your leadership capacity and as an active citizen so you can practice your agency and make a change in society. CSLEEC is one of the avenues through which you can apply that. And now we're going to move over to the keynote address by Prof. Almarie Costandius, who is currently a professor in visual arts. She did a PhD in curriculum studies at Stellenbosch University, where she focused on social responsibility and citizenship in art education. She's also been a part of several task teams and committees that focus on decolonizing the curriculum and on visual redress. Her current interests include new materialist and indigenous perspective in education, and her keynote today is titled Visionary Leadership, Creation, Construction, and Collaboration. This is going to be a very, very insightful keynote, so listen up as Prof. Almarie Costandius gives us some of her thoughts. Over to you, Prof.
Good afternoon. I'm Almarie Costandius, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share and engage in the celebration of this centre's 5th birthday. Before we start, I would like to do an acknowledgement to the first people of the land who lived here on this land before colonial times. The place where we are has a long history, and we would like to give this history a place in our engagements today. Land acknowledgement is a form of reconciliation. The purpose of the acknowledgement is to think about what happened in the past and what changes can be made going forward in order to further the reconciliation process. The recognition that we use here would be a first step to further engage in developing a suitable acknowledgement in the 3 languages with various communities in and outside the university. In this engagement, I will aim to highlight the significance of body-mind entanglements and how that could enhance our learning. I will shortly touch on perspectives of new materialism and indigenous thinking and show some of examples of practice that aimed at opening up new ways of embodied learning. Mind-body learning is in essence acknowledging the importance of the integrated function of the mind and body. Spinoza claimed that the mind and body are part of the same system. Descartes' dualism approach to the body hugely affected Western thinking, as the body was considered inferior and its perceptions considered unreliable. However, We know that, for instance, when we pass a statue or walk into a space, it could affect us. Our body tells us that we are affected because, for instance, we start to sweat. It's only afterwards that our brain reflects on the sudden reaction of sweating. We can also, for instance, read an article about stereotyping in the comfort of our homes. But when we are in an interaction with people that we do not know, our bodies might react in different ways. The body does not lie, or as the psychiatrist and expert in trauma, Bessel van der Kolk, says, the body keeps the score, and the body reflects our experiences in an honest way. Bodily reactions change, and their senses and feeling are often temporary, whereas our ideas and concepts are far more stable and permanent. Pethick, in the article Spinoza Discovering What the Body Can Do, comments that, and I quote, rather than this constant change and variability being considered as a weakness or a hindrance to life, Spinoza accepts it as an essential way in which we live, and therefore something to be affirmed and appreciated. Bachelot, in the article Grounded Cognition, argues that the mind is integrated in the body sensory motor sense system. Macedonia 2019 refers to several neuroscientific studies that was done on embodied learning and explain when thinking or seeing an image of a fruit, it triggers the previously stored memory of prior experience of that fruit. The brain connects all the sensory stored information, the grasping, the lifting, the peeling, smelling, tasting, chewing, and often also the space where and with whom the fruit was eaten. Networks of neurons connected to many other networks until the representation of the fruit maps all the experiences. The sensory experience of space is also recorded. Authors such as Barad, 2007, puts forward the idea that we should understand our place in the world as interrelated networks and use the concept of entanglement. New materialism is a turn to materiality, a turn to ontology, how the world is, instead of only focusing on epistemology, how we understand or theorize about the world. New materialism decenter the human and take in consideration also the non-human entanglements. New materialism also rejects the dualist thinking of nature as the opposite of human, or subject versus object, or mental versus physical. New materialism could be considered as a return to indigenous thinking. Rosick, 2019, argue that in indigenous theories, ideas are grounded, ideas around agency for non-human things and integrated ways of seeing the world already exist. In indigenous theories, authors would not try to justify the non-human, as it is already part of the ontological understanding of the world. It then also becomes interesting to think of the complex connection between the mind, body, environment, and learning performance. Barrett and Bolt, 27, argues that embodied practices could be alternative forms of creating knowledge. Kulanska, 2020, sees the use of artistic processes as an integration of different modes of thinking and knowing, and that is intuitive, rational, bodily, intellectual, and material semiotic. I will now show some examples of experiments in embodied learning where body-mind methodologies were used. As part of my visual communication design course in 2010, I introduced critical citizenship education, where social and political issues explicitly were included and discussed. I also decided to take my projects outside the visual arts building on campus and to communities around us. For instance, in 2011, a group of students decided to install a mobile toilet on the Rooiplain because they felt that students needed a safe space to communicate. It was titled, "I Am the Collective Mati, Making Your Private Thoughts Public." In 2013, Professor Botman contacted me after he heard about the previous toilet installation and asked whether the students would put the toilet up again, because he thought it was important to give the students a chance to voice their opinions. Examples of students writing on those toilets were, "We need each other, don't judge me, there's a story behind who I am, and we are all equals. We just don't always realize or act on that knowledge." One of the projects on Women's Day in 2013, called Alteration, was done by a group of students that suggested a scaffolding in front of the Marais statue on the Rooiplain to enable everyone, especially women, to be on the same level as the raised statue. In 2016, another student put up some steps in front of the statue. In 2014, a student suggested adding poems of Adam Small on the benches of the campus. This idea was used in 2019, and welcoming messages in 16 languages were implemented as part of the Visual Redress project. Mambela, a student then and now an employee, dressed up and took a photo of herself on Heritage Day at the bench with her own Tsonga language message. In another project during 2014, a group of students also suggested projections on the buildings on the Rooiplain of noticeable leaders to counter the prominence of the Marais statue. And a few weeks ago, students also did a performance of Khoi music and remarkable projections on the Marais statue. In 2019, and also in the beginning of 2020, various workshops were facilitated on campus because we realized that the visual redress projects are not enough, and learning in a more embodied manner is also needed. Body sculptures as a performance technique were used in collaboration with the drama department, where groups of students and staff acted as sculptures or series of sculptures to communicate and represent an idea without using spoken language. The participants of the workshop had to trust one another to be able to collaboratively build the body sculptures. The engagement was not only an interaction where they discussed various issues among themselves, but the physicality of body sculptures also made visible the subtle relations that existed between them and enabled collaboration. In the Faculty of Law's first workshop, the main issue that emerged was that some felt like insiders and some like outsiders. As a result of the insider-outsider discussions, a group of life-size cut-out figures was installed in the building as a surprise to students and the staff a month later. The topic of insider-outsider then infiltrated the curriculum without forcing it on lectures to include socio-political issues in the curriculum. In another workshop for students at the law faculty was to engage with the photos on the wall in the lecture room. This process was handled in a very respectful manner. Some students wrapped the photos, some closed the eyes of the person on the photo, and another student wrapped a piece of pink material tracing the shape of the man's face, even though the student did not mean to wrap the face in the shape of a hijab. The look of the hijab transpired afterwards. In the Faculty of Theology's workshop, we engage with the building itself. The theology building was built on a piece of land that used to be the area where the indigenous Khoi and San people gathered for specific occasions before the arrival of the colonizers and the settlers. With some people having family roots in the Khoi and the San, as well as people who were descendants from white settlers, created a complex and multi-layered space. The participants were asked to assemble in groups and using their bodies to sculpt a new building where more people would feel included. The outline of the figures were then suggested to use as a background to the photos in the lecture room. In one of the physiological sciences workshops, the participants were working with natural materials, and concepts of diversity, identity, empathy, unity, Ubuntu emerged from the interactions. They did not decide on the topics beforehand. They simply started to work and saw what the materials and where the materials took them. And this process allowed the people to speak through the materials. One of the interesting concepts that emerged during the third body sculpture session was when the participants had to build with their bodies the concept that they have chosen. It was interesting that most of the actions were collaborative, but when they depicted the word identity, the body sculptures were all individual, the bodies immediately separated. It is exactly at this moment that unedited and unexpected reactions emerge. This type of learning reaches parts that are normally not accessed because the thinking and action are constantly edited. At the Division of Social Impact, the old Lukhof School, participants that attended the school and were part of deflector forced removals took part in the workshop. The workshop started with a walk through the building without talking to another, to leave some space to experience it in silence. The participants went through each room and tried to remember the smells. For instance, the smell of the wood in the woodworking classroom where the workshop took place, what they could see, for instance, cracks on the walls, how they felt, for instance, the benches on which they sat, what feeling they experienced when thinking about the past and present in the building after so many years. The facilitators then asked the participants to use the drawing of the building and to fill in what they remembered of each room of the building. The engagements in this workshop elicited intense pain, but also moments of joy and laughter. In conclusion, we realized that a mind-body involvement needed to be included to enable a more lasting learning experience. Our teaching and learning instruction are grounded on traditional mentalistic principles. For instance, we sit, watch, listen, write in the classrooms, and that engages only some part of our senses. It is only when the mind and body in action come together that the affect becomes stronger. Art processes and performance in combination with thinking and material often trigger unconscious thoughts to come to the consciousness. The entangled manner of engaging has the potential to become alternative methodologies where the experience of misrecognition, injustice, harm, or shame are not only read or talked about, but also visualized and performed. I believe that a lot more research needs to be done in this field of mind and body research, especially in our context. Thank you.
Thanks to Prof. Almarie Costandias for that inspiring and thought-provoking keynote address, speaking about very pertinent themes, especially in an institution such as Stellenbosch University, where visual redress is so important and where one needs to be mindful about their way of being and how their space affects them. And art is such an important tool to use in doing that. Now, in this section, I'm joined by 3 students, both past and present, and we'll be delving into some of the experiences they've had on campus with their respective fields of interest. I'm joined by Unobachido Mubaiwa, I'm joined by Mr. Leeton September, and I'm joined by Ms. Clausen, Ms. Lynette Clausen. Thank you all for joining me today, and I'm excited to be having this chat with you all, especially on such a momentous occasion like these. Are you all well?
Yes.
Good, good. I guess to kick off the conversation, I love what Prof. Costandias was talking about, right? About this idea of how your space affects you and using art, especially as a tool to transform and to change people. Now, Nopi, I know you've had your journey and you've shared openly about your journey with art and music and your passion for mental health. Now, tell me a bit about how student leadership and on-campus involvement has informed that journey. How has it informed your message? And how has it informed how you've gotten to know yourself better and be able to be an active citizen, not just on campus, but in society abroad?
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Tabani. You know, stepping into university, I had a very sort of linear and a very sort of narrow understanding of what leadership meant. You know, I thought that you had to be a certain type of person, have a certain type of personality, and sort of utilize a certain type of strategy in order to, you know, be labeled as a leader. But stepping into Stellenbosch University and firstly being surrounded by an array of different individuals from different walks of life with different experiences and different aspirations, I slowly began to learn that leadership is dynamic and leadership can really take any form in which, you know, speaks to a person. And I think for me, leadership sort of manifested itself through art, through, you know, making connections with people and, you know, not being afraid to unpack the different parts of myself that I didn't even know existed. You know, we often speak about being sort of an active citizen. We speak about, you know, being sort of this method for change and being, you know, sort of a transformative agent. And I think that, you know, that's what art does. Art in itself is a transformative way of being. And that's really, you know, what encouraged me to realize that for so long I was trying to be the leader that I thought everyone wanted me to be, or that I thought there was like that prototype that I spoke about. But what I realized through, you know, becoming more in tune with my artistic self and, you know, becoming more honest with myself in terms of my own mental health and well-being was that, you know, leadership was really about being the leader that you can be. It's about being authentic enough to want to really get to understand yourself in order for you to show up at your very best. And I think that sometimes, you know, quite often we get scared to speak about things such as mental health and well-being because we think that, you know, that sort of falls in line with being weak or, you know, being too vulnerable and not being strong enough. But I think leadership is vulnerability. Leadership is, you know, wanting to, like I said, unpack those different parts of yourself in order for those different parts of yourself to connect with an array of different people. And I think that that's what I've been able to do, whether it be through my music, whether it be through my passions for mental health and well-being, and, you know, more so be it, you know, with my journey in leadership at Stellenbosch University and, you know, being able to just connect and engage with so many different people. So I think that's definitely what I'd have to say about that. And I'm just so grateful for the fact that I put myself out there being this bubbly, shy person. And now I'm able to speak here in front of a whole bunch of people that I can't physically see, but I know that they're there. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Nopi. Such a detailed answer. And she really, you know, touched on many themes. And I think what stands out for me, right, is this aspect of vulnerability, especially when it comes to health. And I know, Lynette, for you, when you were elected, the same year you were elected as the Tygerberg Society's council chair, you received a life-altering diagnosis. Tell us a bit about that and how that impacted your personal journey and your leadership journey, more specifically.
Okay. So in 2019, as you said, that was my first year as TSC chair. I was also a 4th year medical student. I was diagnosed with juvenile myoclonic epilepsy. So I went from being so excited to start this leadership journey to basically being scared to continue. So I was in a position where I had to balance academics, leadership, and then also having seizures at the same time and trying to get control of that. And I thought of quitting, actually. There was a moment where I was like, listen, I can't do this. I need, something's got to give. But then I realized, like, what actually kept me going was the fact that I was busy with leadership. Like, it gave me this sort of a reason to keep pushing. And for me, the reason that was so important is because there's so many people that I've met with epilepsy that thought their lives were over after receiving their diagnosis. And I felt like in this position, even though I was having the seizures and even though things were rough, I was able to continue. And me being able to actually continue in that was also my way of showing others that have the same issues that I have, that listen, it doesn't matter what is happening over here, you can still continue. And I've been so grateful to this university for actually having that opportunity to not just be a leader, but also kind of try and be some sort of an inspiration, you know, and to keep moving forward. And in that role as TSC chairperson, I learned so much about myself. I've grown so much, and I would have never been able to do that without that role. And I've also met so many people that have contributed so much to my life, and just learned how to work with different people. And as Nopi also said, I was also a shy person. This would never have been happening without that role, for instance. So it gave me the confidence to actually speak out and speak out proudly about the issues I have faced and how it has helped me grow as a person.
Thank you for that. And I think as you were sharing your story, I think what sort of took me aback was how, as well with Nopi's story as well, you know, you see that there's this theme of, I have I have something that I'm going through, that I'm dealing with, something I'm experiencing, right? And at first, there's sort of this hesitance around, how am I going to address this? How am I going to move forward with this? And then you're given this opportunity, which is somewhat of a big responsibility. And then it's through that and connecting with others and talking with others and sharing your experience with others that you actually see that you are the change that you need, right? And what was supposedly plaguing you now becomes what gives you a bigger voice. And there's this feeding into this sense of community and growing in that sense of community. And it brings me to you, Leighton. You started off as in the SRC as one of the youngest members to ever run. I remember the time around when you were running, people were saying, who's this kid? Who does he think he is? Right? And I'm sure you drew a lot from the community around you. And today, you know, you're an educator to young minds who are going to impact not only the immediate societies or the continent, but the globe as a whole. How has that on-campus involvement and that experience of being a young leader, how has that impacted the way you do your work and how you sort of help students to think more critically and to be more active citizens in society?
So it's interesting that you speak also about hesitance, because it was exactly that for me when I started my journey. Like you said, I started my leadership journey on campus being one of the youngest members to ever run for SRC. But before that, it was that hesitance. It literally happened. A friend came to me, said, listen, why don't you run for SRC? I was like, what? Why? I am so young. I literally know nothing. The only things I knew was what he told me, because he was the guy that I went to when I wanted to get something done at university. And so I thought to myself, I do, since I think high school, I've done a lot of introspection. I went home and I thought, why not give it a shot? Why not just try? And so I did that, and I've been on the SRC. I did SRC for 2 terms, and so my first term, being so young, there was so much that I learned. The caucuses were absolutely, it was horrifying for me, because there were people in the audience and people that were running with me that had so much knowledge, and they knew so much more than me. But I just sat back, I just took it all in, I learned from the experience. And in my second term, even though which was the year exactly after that, even though I was still so young, I was now considered as one of the more senior members of the team. And so I really sat back and I learned from that. And today, as an educator, I can say that, like, having just taken that step back and observed what's going on, now as an educator, once again, I find myself in the position where I'm one of the youngest. I am the youngest educator at the school that I'm at. So I just sit back, I take it all in, I learn from other people around me, I learn from the people that I work with every day. Having worked with the students on the SRC, I just learn from the students. You listen to students, you listen to what they tell you, because you are leading them. So you have to sit back and listen to what they are saying. And then having the opportunity to, have meetings and really give insight into how the rector and the rectorate makes decisions really opened up my eyes in how to manage situations, how to handle yourself when you are placed in difficult situations. So now, when I'm an educator, as I'm an educator, I really try to draw from that and just help my students to also, take from my experiences as well.
And you mentioned such an important point. It seems that, you always position yourself as a student, right? You get into a new space, you're a student, you learn the game, quote unquote, and then you sort of progress through that. But it's evident in all your journeys that even from a place of feeling like I don't know a lot, I don't have a lot to offer, the conclusion always is you're equipped enough for this, you're fit enough for this. And I know my first encounter with CSLEEC was actually somewhat similar, right? I've always had a voice, right? I've always voiced out whatever I felt and whatever I wanted to do. I always pursued that. But I never thought of myself as a leader. I was like, I'm just a rebel, just a rebel that just doesn't want to do stuff and go according to the law. And what CSLEEC did through the experiential learning education and the short courses and the offerings that were there, they actually, one, they affirmed a lot of the things that I believed in. I was like, these are actually high ideals that we should be aiming for in society. And 2, I'm halfway there, right? I just needed a bit of knowledge here, a bit of knowledge there. And when I got some of that education and the upskilling, I felt like I was a leader enough to step into those positions. And I think, our journeys are somewhat different. Some of us got there naturally, some of us were pushed there. A friend of yours came to you and they were like, just do it. And I think it's so important to realize what you have to offer. And regardless, and to the students watching, regardless of where you are, what you do have the capability and the capacity to lead. Now, we want to engage with some of you on the Mentimeter. If you go to menti.com and you type in the code 74923225 and share with us what some of your thoughts on what leadership is, what the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word leadership, and even what you would want from a leader, what you'd want to see in society. And as I wrap this conversation up, I think I just want to get one word from each of you, how your journey has been, in terms of your leadership journey on campus, or what's that one thing that you've learned from engagement with CSLEEC, engagement with other students, and your leadership journey. I'm going to start with you, Nopi. What's that one word that you'd like to leave with us?
I think that the word that comes to mind is just worthy. And I think that the reason why that word comes to mind is, as we've spoken about, that hesitating or that sort of self-doubt or not thinking that you know enough to be able to do what it is that you want to do. I think we all need to realize that regardless of who we are or where we come from, we're worthy. And if we have, a passion, if we have an idea, if we have something that we want to do, just do it, because you're worthy enough to do it. It's not about the outcome. It's about just knowing that you're worthy enough to even give yourself the opportunity to want to do something and to want to step up and take up space.
Thank you for that. So her word is worthy. You, Lynette?
I would say endurance.
Because this definitely takes a lot of push, a lot of work, but also CSLEEC has also played a very big role in helping me get to where I need to be, for instance. So endurance, but with the help of others.
Thank you for that. And for you, Leighton?
I think I'm going to use the word experiential education because I think the only way that I've managed to learn was through my experience. It was through putting myself in positions where I wouldn't normally have put myself in, and just experiencing all that and learning from it, and just taking a step back and just observing.
Yeah.
So experiential education would be my word.
I love that. I love that. And I think my word would be, it must be conviction. I think conviction is such a force, and it's driven a lot of what I've done. And I always say conviction is the crossway between humility and confidence, right? I'm confident enough to know that I have the capacity within me to lead, but I'm also humble enough to realize that I'm here to serve, right?
Yeah.
I'm not overly confident saying I'm the only person that can ever do this, and if I don't do it, then, it's just not going to happen. I have the humility to say, I'm here in a serving capacity, but I still have that confidence. I'm not so humble that I'm like, no, I can't do anything, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been called to do this thing. So the confidence, that's where the confidence comes in. And at this point in time, we're going to look at our Mentimeter, just to see what some of you are saying, how some of you are engaging, what some of your words are that come up when you think and you hear leadership. And as we do that, we're going to swiftly move on to our art piece. But before we go there, I see that some of the students are also sharing the same sentiments. Some of the words that are coming up are participation, and some of the words that are coming up are leadership, right? Because a leader should have a sense of leadership. And it's strange that some people don't think about this.
Yeah.
Some people, I always say this about sporting heroes, we see someone who's an expert at their field, and all of a sudden we say, this person is a leader. I'm like, but what if they don't have leadership capacity?
Yeah.
What if they just, good at what they do? So thank you to all of you for engaging with us. The comments are coming through there. I'm loving them. Thank you all for engaging with us. Active citizenship are some of the themes that are coming up. And again, they ring so true to all that we do, and they also tie in very well to the conversation that we're having here. And as we wrap the program up for today, we're going to go over to Uasipem Fundi, who's going to be sharing a bit about student life, but through poetry and art. So take a seat back and be ready to be dazzled by this wonderful piece of art.
We are the student governance. Here, we erase the mindset of fists. Here, our eyes are fixed on the magics of brains. Here, we are the kind that never begs for permission to speak. Here, we emancipate the mind to escalate the limits and be free to think. Here, we are farmers, but our gardens can only bear fruits, not vegetables. Here, we merge ideas until solutions emerge. Here, we are building umbrellas for rainy days ahead. Here, we are microphones for young voices to be heard. Here, we join forces to turn the tide of revolution over and over. Here, we are transformed by our struggles. It is never over. Here, we are not stepping down until radical change takes over. Here, leaders and followers, speakers and listeners are all synonyms. Here, do not touch your wallets. Human value and dignity is priceless. Here, we embrace the progress of students with standing ovation. Here, the development of students calls for celebration. Here, we are the student governance. Remember us.
Such a moving piece. And it's not only a proclamation, but it's also a call for us to be, and to be in the space and be ourselves to our fullest capacity. Now, as we bring the program to an end, I'm going to call upon Dr. Choice Maketa to give us our vote of thanks. Over to you, Doc.
Good afternoon. Wow, what a journey of 5 years. To everyone at the Center of Student Leadership, Experiential Education, and Citizenship, thank you. Thank you for bringing energy, focus, and intentionality into everything that you're doing, for embracing students as co-creators in the space, and for ensuring that they are partners on a learning journey. The collaborations you've built within the university are visible, and the partnerships that you have strengthened with other higher education institutions, civil society, and government have shown. Thank you for that. I would want to thank Professor Wim de Villiers, the Rector and Vice Chancellor, for giving a message of welcome, really taking us on a journey of the 5 years and sharing the milestones achieved. We want to thank you for the institutional support that we received throughout this time, because without that, we would not have achieved all this. I want to thank Ms. Tonya Overmeyer, who's the director of the center, for her leadership and also for providing us with context this afternoon of why we are here. To our keynote speaker, Professor Elmarie Constandias, thank you very much for your focus on visionary leadership. That links very well with the imagination the center needs to have as they move on into the next 5 years. We appreciate your contribution and appreciate your message. To our panelists, who are our former student leaders as well, Tabani Mzi, Leighton September, and Lynette Klassen. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and sharing your journey with us, and we wish you well on your endeavors going forward. I also want to thank Asipi Mfundi Feni for sharing a powerful message through spoken word. You are talented. Thank you very much. We are at a point now where we can throw the balloons in the air and the sparkles can come down, because we have done great. It is at this point where we say, forward together, sonke siya phambili, samfurentu. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our 5th birthday celebration. Please do follow us and let's continue the conversation talking about leadership, our leadership journeys, our personal journeys on the Center of Student Leadership, Experiential Education and Citizenship. Follow us on Facebook, share some of your comments. The hashtag is #SLEEC, and then tell us what you think. And I want to thank everyone who got involved today. Thank you to all the guests, and thank you to all the keynote speakers and the welcoming. It was a very short-lived program, but you know, they say, ezimnandi azipheli. And so with that said, I was your host, Utabana George. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, let's continue the conversation on social media, #SLEEC, #leadership. Thank you.